this is a piece of flashing, and when we get to somebody's house with shingles on it, this, you can see where this was out in the elements and this was up underneath the shingles. This might be cut because of something that was, it just couldn't get around.
Like a vent.
Yeah, who knows what they cut it around.
Right.
So this slides up underneath the shingles, this sticks out. This hole lines up with the trusses. So on a house, there's like big wooden trusses that run this way, and then the decking goes across and the shingles go on. Pretend this is a piece of wood underneath the shingles. We will put a big lag screw into the actual truss through this. But when you do that, this piece goes up underneath the shingle. This L-foot has a little cup. When these are new, these stick up and they seal underneath this. These are, oh sorry, I got flipped upside down. There it is. So this sets on that, and then when it screws down in there, you will have a big lag screw, and you'll have a washer, and the washer will have another like a rubber neoprene thing on it, and then that will go down through there and it will seal off to the roof. And then this is all bolted to the roof. Then this rail, these long rails, they have channels. Everything's pretty cool. All the bolts will slide through the rail, and you just slide this down to wherever these are at on the roof, and then it bolts onto the roof. And then once you have this rail on here, we have these clamps. These are considered like mid clamps and end clamps. And what will happen is you can take these and you set the panel on top of the rail. So like this one, for example, see how the rail sticks out on each side? You get the rail, you get the panel situated on the rail, you get everything squared up, and then you would take these clamps, and these things just drop down in here, turn sideways, and they just lock down right on the panel, and then that would lock down on top of the panel. You get 4 of these per panel, and the cool thing about how these are set up, the panel beside it will lock into this side, and if it's at the end, we put in these little keepers to lock in the other side of it. So one of these can actually hold down 2 panel. So once you start laying panels, the rail that's sticking out, the next panel just lays down on the top of it. You just drop these things in, line them up, and then screw this one down, and it clamps both sides of the panel at the same time. If something goes wrong with the panel or an optimizer, it'll show us where it's at on the roof. You climb up there, you actually only take out those 4, lift them out, and the whole panel comes out. That's how fast and easy that it can come out. Different types of mounting. The barn roofs, the architectural or the agricultural type curved, that can go on it. It's got sticky back, and it's got 4 screw holes, and they're self-tapping metal screws. And instead of going on the flat surface of a metal roof, it actually bolts to the rib that sticks up. Then this piece that sticks up, all of a sudden, is what replaces the L-foot, and that bolt goes in there. So the L-foot would bolt directly to this, and then the rail goes over the top of it. Standing seam metal roofs. So if you go to a building that, even residential, but it's mostly commercial industrial, will have a straight up and down seam. This slides over the seam, and then these keepers from like an Allen wrench type setup go in there, and then that screws down and screws. It doesn't make a hole, but just pinches onto the roof, and then that holds it on. And then all of a sudden, now you got this sticking up. Your L-foot bolts go. Now, obviously, this is a little bit different. These setups right here. Check this out. These newer ones. This is probably the wrong clamp for it. You see how that works? You can set these on the roof, and you can just bolt the panels whichever side you need to, and you can cover an entire commercial roof. And all of a sudden, you don't need railing anymore. Now, all of these have, if you pass that around, they all have little grooves. Those little grooves actually dig in, and it will create, if you do it right, with the correct clamp, it will ground the panels. And if the panels get hit by lightning, it will be able to take all the electricity from the lightning and run it down to a lightning rod into the existing system, existing electrical system, versus like exploding a panel or lighting the roof on fire. So, because with all this metal, it can definitely attract some lightning. And then once you're laying these down, you're connecting all the wires, and you end up just creating all those wires just connect into each other, each one of these. I mean, they've thought of everything how to make this super efficient. These have little bolts that slide in the top like these clamps. These will clamp to this, and then this will go underneath the panel. So when it gets mounted, this thing's like literally right up underneath the panel, almost touching it, and it gets hidden right up on the rail, and you can't ever see it. And then you have one right here behind this panel, and then the next panel beside it, and they make the wires long enough so there's a panel, and all of a sudden you're connecting the panels, and you look, and then this one, these get connected, then these get connected, and you're literally just daisy chaining down through there, and then you're done. So these get connected between one another, and then these get connected to the panels. So each one of these has a little QR code, and when they're installing them, they scan them with their phone, and then it maps out the site. And when you get done, you can see where every panel's at on a roof. And if one ever goes bad, you can say, oh, it's the third panel up in the top corner, and you can go up and pull that one, and then that's got the serial number attached to it.